Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
You're just going to drop us in there like that, huh?
Hell yeah.
Drop us in. Hey everybody, it's Kevin Dowdark on the forums.
Hey everybody, it's Devin Cutthroat here on the forums.
Alright.
Just as a fair warning, holy crap, is this off script?
Yeah, today we do have a very off-script podcast. Unfortunately, I did not plan anything, and we were not clever enough to think of something before we started recording. And also, to be fair, I literally woke up 5 minutes ago.
Lazy ass.
Whatever.
5 minutes is being very generous with the time.
It is being a little generous for the time. It is noon. Well, it's 12:30 almost. So.
Oh, man. So, hey, you guys hear the news about this new Errata thing?
I have deleted a lot of posts because of this new Errata thing. Has it
increased your moderator duties?
It has made it interesting during the overnight time to moderate people, which is exciting because it's been kind of boring the past couple of weeks overnight.
What's been the best post you've seen that you've had to delete?
Unfortunately,
I can't mention any names.
It was on a. Well, I deleted an entire thread. So yeah, that's what I'll say to that.
Wow, that must have been just an amazing little piece of literature right there.
Well, it was it started, and then the original poster realized it had gotten out of hand, and it wasn't intended to be that way. So they actually had emailed the moderation team, and I put it up, and then between me and another moderator, we took care of it. So
is that actually a norm? Like, do you get people who are like, I need you to lock this because it's not what I wanted it to be or whatever?
It's happened a couple times. What I would say is, for the future, if anyone's on the forums, the best tool you can use is that report button. Even if you're reporting it for your own stuff and say, hey, this kind of got out of hand. But people private message me about different things. But yeah, I like looking at the reported posts because actually a lot of people, they'll report other people like, hey, this kind of went out of hand. And it's stuff that we don't always see. So it's kind of nice.
Huh.
I just picture the responses go, oh, please, God, no, help us all.
Yeah, pretty much.
The end is nigh. So when the news, so I got to get your opinion on this, because when the news dropped about the Errata, two things kind of happened when I read the Insider. So those who don't know, Wilshik posted an Insider that basically it kind of went over what is a living Errata. I think living rules Errata is I think what they're calling it. And the first thing I read was, we've come up with this idea of doing an Errata in January, and then we'll do it again in 6 months. And then that way there's a routine. Everybody can experience, everybody can expect the Errata every 6 months. And I was like, okay, that's not new. You guys have been doing that for 2 years. So WTF.
Yeah, which was kind of a strange thing that they had stated like that. I guess they just want to make it more official because it's always been like a 6-month time period, but I don't think it was always strictly stated that they were going to do it. And I think the old one was in, I want to say like February, March time frame, right? Or am I wrong?
No, the last one was right before June. It was right before Lock and Load.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think, because they did do like a midway one, but I think it was right before June. But honestly, I mean, it is an all-new war, so maybe they're just making all-new posts about same old rules.
That is true.
But now we can look at it, and it's officially been stated it's every 6 months. So it's not an assumption. People aren't looking at a pattern. We know it's every 6 months.
So did they say the next one's coming out in January or December?
They said middle of January.
Middle of January.
It's coming out.
Okay. So let's go over the bullet points of what this new Errata is supposed to entail.
Oh man, this was a juicy one, honestly. Like, if it lives up to the bullet points alone, it's going to be a hotly discussed Errata.
It is. So, does anyone have it up? Of course.
Pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Off script, well prepared.
Hell yeah, it's fine. That's what editing is for.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, so is it Schick or Schwick?
Schick.
Schick. All
Like
right.
the razor.
Just wanted to make sure I didn't butcher that. All right, so the main things that they're going over, the 4 bullet points are the exploitation of the throw power attack. We're looking at you, Dahlia, and your snake.
So for those who haven't experienced or who haven't seen it, the current wording on the power attacks is you can actually one of two ways. You can either you basically throw directly away from you, which you can basically align yourself so that you put yourself in a position where your model is directly away from your intended target, and then it does not deviate. So there's basically a scenario where if you can throw a large base model, you can auto trigger without any rolls needed to knock down a caster for a shooting assassination or knock down a high defense thing so you can kill it and claim a zone or something like that. Controlled knockdown at no flaw on your part. The other thing that you can do is, in order to get around the whole directly towards, is if you can't get a line, you can choose a target that is in the direction you want to go that you know is further out, but the intended target you want to knock down is within the throw's max distance, thereby again creating your own manipulatable knockdown ability that you don't ever really need to roll for in order to knock the high target thing down.
So it's laser targeted throwing, all reward, no risk.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're throwing your own model, because then it's a scenario of you can set up back strike so that you can get addition to hit to grab the thing that you're throwing. It's super easy for somebody to set it up where it's like, I'm going to throw my jack on this guy, and okay, your caster's knocked down, and now all of my guns shoot you, and since power up no longer fields armor, you can only negate 5 points for so many times, and then you're just plain dead.
It's bad.
Arguably it's a tactic or it's a skill that people need to learn in the current edition, and a lot of people just feel that though the concept was a nice concept to be able to just be like, I'm going to throw it over here. I don't necessarily want to throw it at a target, or I don't want to, just going to put it over here. Want a little bit more control on its designation location. The fact that it does not deviate is really the manipulatable event.
It's been super easy to manipulate that. As we saw,
I mean,
a lot of
so
times, it happened a lot in the WTC, I think. They were talking about Flying Snake was going crazy.
Yeah, so the Flying Snake one is you get a scenario where you get Dahlia and Scarith. Dahlia runs to wherever the snake is going to end up so that the snake gets the boostable, or I'm sorry, you start out with throwing. So you grab the snake, something throws it, 6, 7, 8 inches. Something else comes up, grabs the snake, throws it another 6, 7 inches. Rorschenbein comes up, gives it their animus, throws it an additional inches, and then the Dahlia activates. She runs to get in control range. The snake can't be knocked down, and the snake just starts spraying with boosted attack rolls everywhere because it's in range of Dahlia. It's super abusive and has killed lots of casters.
Yep.
Oh, lots of models. All right, so that's probably why it's number 1 on the list. Number 2 is Crix and its ability to handle gun lines. Like, straight up, they're calling out an entire faction and something that it has an inability to do.
So here's the thing that I thought was interesting about this one is that they specifically called out. They didn't say we're going to fix Crix or we're going to make Banes better or whatever the case. They specifically called out a deficiency of Crix struggles with gun lines, which is Signar, Ret, Kador to some extent. I think those are the 3 main. Mercenaries, kind of, sort of, not really.
Trolls. Oh wait, they don't have guns.
They have guns. They're just not necessarily a gun line. But I think there's a scenario where obviously Crix players do not like guns. They never have in any edition that we've ever gone through, first, second, or New War. It's Crix and guns never. They're not best of friends. It's like electricity and water. The thing that I thought was weird about it is that a lot of Crix players don't necessarily feel like the inability to deal with gun lines was their only flaw. Like, the Crix players as a whole go to the forums. I take that back. Go to the forums carefully and read a lot of the posts that are out there, it's not just complaining about guns. There are complaints of gun lines, don't get me wrong, but it's not just about the guns. So I'm kind of curious why Privateer Press was just like, we're going to fix the gun line issue, not necessarily addressing some of the other pieces. Is it a case of they don't think that the other parts are an issue?
I personally, I mean, talking to one of the people we've brought onto the cast before, Mr. Leclerc, his biggest concern, his biggest peeve with playing his Crix, which has been his main faction for Mark III, has been gun lines. Gun lines have been absolutely everything that's been just a, for lack of a better term, just a bane. And it's just
Devin's got
ridiculous.
jokes.
I do. You missed my electrifying one on that water and electricity one.
I just
But
didn't
back
think it
to
was
the
good.
point,
I'm sorry.
in general, he's just having a ton of problems with gun lines. And as soon as they called out straight up gun lines, I can tell you right now that we had a conversation the day it happened, and he was just like, hallelujah. Like, that's all he wanted. So, I mean, overall, he's pretty happy, I guess, where Crix stands, except for the fact of what he has to face into.
Okay.
So do you think that this is a scenario where Crix players world round are dusting off their Crix and getting a little muscle memory in preparation for the errata to come, or do you think this is a scenario where the Crix community as a whole is like, I'll see how it turns out and then I'll decide?
I'm thinking it's probably going to be
Scenario.
yeah, I think it's gonna be a second scenario where they're gonna wait and see. They're not gonna. 'Cause I wouldn't want to invest my time into a lot of things I'm gonna do with Crix if I don't know how much it's gonna change. Because yeah, gunlines are gonna change. What's it gonna be? Are they gonna change one caster? Are they gonna change one units? Like, what are they gonna do to change the fact that they have an issue with gunlines?
See, I think it's going to depend on the Crix player. I mean, if you're a player who is playing Crix and Crix is your, meat and potato faction, then you're just going to be happy to hear this news and hopefully it's going to benefit you. Do I think that we're going to have people that might have played Crix or people that play other factions abandoning what they're playing to go running into Crix? I don't think so. I think they're going to see what's going to happen. They want to see where it's going to go. But I can tell you right now, for my conversations on a daily basis with Mr. Leclerc, I've been a lot happier because the Salt has definitely stopped running a little bit.
So now you talked to Leclerc. Have you talked to Nablis? Has he given you opinion on the Crix errata or potential errata?
Personally, we haven't really gotten to talk too much about gun lines. I mean, honestly, he hates what he sees with Signar, of course, and of course he hates what he sees with Ret. But everybody hates what they see with Signar. Everybody hates what they see with Ret. So I don't know if see maybe something affect gun lines because they're super strong and, some of the things that are happening are just really powerful. But I mean, both of them are, diehard Crix players. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, of course, both of them were really happy to hear that, at least they're addressing something. So number 3 on this list was close examination and potential rebalancing for the top, and I quote, 5% of overperforming and underperforming models, end quote.
I like this. I like this a lot.
I think it's very broad, so it's just top 5%. Was the bottom 5% all of scoring?
Well,
is it per
we haven't made it to that bullet. We haven't made it to that bullet yet.
Hey, I'm just wondering, what are they talking about by top 5, bottom 5?
I think so here's the two things that come to mind that I'm almost curious about. Where are they getting their data from? Because they have to have some sort of data point to give them a leverage of what they feel like their top 5 best and top 5 worst models are. And unless their data point is strictly based upon their office play, which would be horrible, I am assuming their data points are going to come from stuff like WTC selection, the local major con reports, stuff like Attack X or Smog Con and stuff like that, where things are performing on those levels. Or is it a case of they're just the scenario I'm worried about is they're looking at stuff like forums and Facebooks and looking for what the people are bitching about and choosing those as their top 5. Like, that would probably be the worst case scenario, because I don't think this game would be able to survive in a world where where PP is basically just trying to address the vocal minority and their complaints?
I think the WTC is going to be a major player here. They had what was it 320 or 360 individual players? I know it was 300. I think it's 320. They had 320 individual players, and I definitely think that using the information that they gathered there, with what we discussed in earlier cast, is the fact that they have a lot of, they can look at it and see who won into what. Now, once again, that's only 320 different people, and the rest of the information, when they're not playing the other games personally, is questionable. I know right now I'm a little bit worried because one of my favorites, I know, is in the top 7%. So whether or not he's good enough to be in the top 5% has me a little bit worried.
You fell
Oh my
off.
god, dude,
Who
he's
is that?
in the top
Adrak?
1%.
He is not in the top 1%. That's Wormwood.
Okay, so I promise you right now, this errata, I will be surprised if Madrak 2 and Wormwood are not addressed. I'm going to use the word addressed in some way in the next errata.
He's gonna get a bad touch.
Well, he's been.
See,
He's gonna get a bad touch.
I don't know. Look at how he
He's
performed in
gonna
the
have to go to
WTC,
court.
though.
He's gonna have to go to court, and he's gonna have to show the court on the doll where PP touched him.
So you bring up an excellent point, Devin, and it's something that I think that doesn't necessarily just apply to Madrak. My concern with leveraging WTC, and I'm gonna say that PP probably paid attention to the WTC information, is twofold. One, if this errata is coming out in January, then that means that they basically have 2 months to try and quote-unquote fix anything that they feel was an issue off of the WTC information. That's not enough time. Two, if they're looking at the WTC information and saying, oh, well, we need to fix Madrak 2 or Wormwood or Cyclops Shamans or whatever because of some sort of data point that they pull out WTC, the only issue with that format is designed with team development in mind. It's not a case of people just sitting down and playing five steamroller matchups and giving you 5 game data points. It's a case of scenarios where individuals got to play in preferred matchups. Individuals got to drop anti-Madrak 2 lists into Madrak 2 to bring his success number down. So it's going to result in a couple scenarios where either one, the information is skewed incorrectly under, in the case of Madrak 2, how strong he is. People are like, well, WTC, he did poorly. Well, yeah, because people were gunning for him with lists they designed for him. Of course he's going to perform poorly. Vice versa, you may have other models that perform exceptionally well because they dark horsed into games that they were well excelled in because they had an advantage the person didn't know. People weren't prepared for certain matchups like Convergence or something like that. WTC, because of its format, is going to potentially provide you a false positive on what can or cannot be, or what should or should not be adjusted.
Devil's advocate on that, though. If we look at these high performance casters, and you say people are gunning for Madrak because he's so strong. I mean, the same could be said about Wormwood, and Wormwood performed well over any other caster.
Well, he is definitely an issue, and it's something that I've been kind of, muddling around in my brain of how, when this errata came out, I'm like, okay, if Madrak 2 and Wormwood are on the table, how can Privateer Press fix them in a single ability change?
And that's what scares me. Because when I think about Madrak 2, I think of what they had threatened. I say threatened, but one of the suggestions that had been made mention of in conversations, people who might have a little bit of the know-how, is the fact of taking away Madrak 2's ability to reave as much fury as he does. And I think that would basically take away a lot of what makes him, in general, a good caster,
But is that going to necessarily ruin him as a caster? The reason why I bring that up is because a big thing that happened was back in Mark II was when Haley got her big adjustment finally. And a lot of people were upset about her, but after a couple of weeks or even a few months of complaining, she actually was still a very strong caster. People just couldn't play her exactly the same way as they could be. And that's what I'm wondering is,
Right.
is it the absolute end all be all if that does happen and he becomes from the top 1 or 2% down to a mid-ranking or worse caster, or is it the fact that he is a still very solid caster,
I don't
it's
think
going
so.
to limit him a little bit more?
Example to use, because all they had to do was alter one area of her overall. It was just her feat was so strong in general that they just removed one additional part to it. It was still super strong. I think
Well,
what
they cut her
I'm
feet
worried.
in half. Her feet was 2 parts. They cut it down to 1 part.
Okay, and they're not even like there's been no mention of his feet. Like it's
Exactly.
not his feet.
Well, no, I'm saying just instead
Which
of they
I
changed
think
the
is
ability.
I think is flawed. I think I said it on another cast, and I'm of the opinion, and I'm going to put myself down on record now. In my opinion, the first attempt at solution for Magic 2, and I hope that Privateer Press is going to do the Mark II over time adjusting a caster to try and fit it right instead of Mark 2 to 3 Asphyxius of just nerf him to the ground. I don't want to see Magic 2 get nerfed to the ground. I think he's a great caster. I think he's an A+++ caster, and he needs to be trimmed down to an A caster. And in my opinion, the first attempt should be changing his feet to affect everybody but him. Every non-Warlock Warcaster model can be affected by his feet.
Devin, what are your thoughts?
I don't think that would be so bad, honestly. I mean, because then you could still do things like have Rock or anybody else like that. As I said, my biggest fear is, I mean, if they could change his feet, and I would probably be okay with that. My biggest fear, or they could even put a cap on how much fury he could have on himself at one time. Like,
the only issue with cap is it's more paperwork. It's more bookkeeping.
correct, and that's what I'm saying. But the talk that had happened in the past was the fact of just removing that ability, and that has been a staple for him. You know, the ability to basically, you know, gain this from killing living models. You know, that has always been, that's just been something that's been there. And yeah, with the new Silver Surfer mode, we've been able to see him, you know, really use it. Just to say that's an easy button, and press it and say, hey, we're done. And then next thing you know is you've got a caster who now is only, Fury 5, which is already hard enough with all of the spells he has that are, you know, pretty high priced, and, you know, the do much. So without that, and you key in his feet, then he's still not doing anything, because he's still got to cast spells, he's still got to do this, so he's not doing anything.
Which is why I don't want to see them take away his ability. Like, I still want the concept of Madrak to be like, oh, there's 3 dudes here. Charge, kill, kill, kill. Here's 3 more focus. Now I can cast this and this. Okay, feet. The rest of my army go. Like, I think he's a prep setup type caster if you trim him out of his own feet, and then his feet still does a shit ton of work. It's just not reliant upon him to, as you coined it, Silver Surfer.
So, you know, I think they should just build a wall and keep the trolls out. Make Imran great again.
They can build a storm wall, and Magic will just kill it.
Make Imran great again.
Then the trolls will pay for it, like we have for everything.
Dude, we've got a running tab already. Make the trolls pay for it.
Just give them more blankets. My biggest concern with adjusting, I'm super excited about the potential, because that means that if this is a reoccurring thing, every errata there is a top 5, low 5 adjustment that happens in every errata. That would be amazing for the game, and that would live up to their living errata document that they're talking about. I'm worried that it's going to be a scenario of too much reaction to forum complaints and too much trying to solve it in one go. I would like to see it more staggered. Like, I would like to see them hit Madrak and Wormwood to the point where they're different, but they potentially need to be looked at again in the following errata. My concern, however, also is the community's reaction of, well, okay, here's the new updated feat. Now it doesn't affect Madrak, but it still affects us. We're not changing everything. We're adding the words non-warrior warlock model to his feat, and the world is going to explode because they had Silver Surfer Madrak and now they don't. And the natural reaction, it seems like, out of this community is, F this, I'm going to sell all my models, I'm going to contact Better Business Bureau, invalidating purchases. And it's like, calm down, people. He's still amazing. Try him, test him out before you start complaining all over the place.
So the last thing I want to say on this, just because we're keeping the time and we still have one more bullet point to discuss, is that my only worry about these 6-month erratas, and it was my worry before, especially when they're talking about it living, is that we're always going to have 6 months where a lot of stuff's going to change. A new rule is going to be found and then broken, and then basically we have to wait 6 months until that rule is fixed. Like, yeah, I know they said they could do on-the-spot ones, but good for, the game's going to keep changing and we're always going to have something different. But I also feel like, with the meta in general existing the way it has, they're going to find a new rule. They're going to find out how to use it to the best of their ability, and then they're going to beat the hell out of everybody else using it. So
hey, 6 months is better than the almost year of Denny 2 I went on top of 2 scenario.
Exactly. All right. So number 4, the elephant in the room, if you may say, they legitimately put Scorn. Yes, the whole faction. End quote.
So I was interested in this because I'm really honestly surprised that they did put the entire faction on there and saying that the entire faction has not performed what they thought that would. Now, what concerns me about it is that what exactly are they going to be able to do to fix the entire faction to where people do not get their hopes up in a way that they think that the whole faction is going to be fixed and it's going to be absolutely amazing and overpowered. Because they're going to have to rewrite literally an entire deck's worth of stuff, is what it sounds like.
So Kevin had a really good thought on that we were talking about before we started recording.
I did. What was it?
God damn it, Kevin.
about the charges?
Oh, yeah, one of the things, and I think it was actually Trevor Christensen from Chain Attack that I think was the one who first kind of brought the idea to my head, because I remember him mentioning it on a podcast or something like that, was a lot of the struggles of Scorn Warbeast right now is that they got reduced in fury and they're not nearly as powerful and potentially a little slower. And I think it was Trevor Christensen from Chain Attack who actually kind of brought this into notion, is this concept of the Scorn Beasts are when they had their fury taken away and trimmed out and stuff like that, and that they had a couple other things that happened to them. The biggest thing that kind of really he keeps on repeating, and I think it's actually really solid, is that Scorn has no way, unlike other Hordes factions, has no way of triggering or manipulating free charges. So I think something like adding some sort of ability or some sort of way of Hunter's Mark being taken in Scorn, something as simple as Lanissa Rissel willing to work for Scorn or something like that, could go a really long way to increase not only their threat projection ability, but their ability to damage things by giving them another focus to play with.
Something that I think is kind of interesting, and I find it kind of coincidental, is that they just released this request for people to play test the Mer pandas, and I'm doing the quote marks on either side. Makes me wonder if that has anything to do with testing out new stuff for the Scorn faction.
I mean, it's definitely possible, but I think that they may end up cutting people's teeth on the Scorn faction errata for it. But if anything, I think that they are scrambling to gather up playtesters because in a little over 6 months they need to release a new faction at Lock and Load 2017.
Hell yeah, I cannot wait for that faction to come out.
The Hollow Men or Grimmerkin or whatever they're calling it.
Off the side topic, did you guys see the post about SmogCon and what they're doing there?
No.
they're going to be they're going to be announcing exactly what the new faction is at SmogCon this year in just a few months. And then they're also going to be giving out on sale will be not only is it a SmogCon exclusive, but it is also the first miniature that can be used in the new faction. It is a faction exclusive.
Oh,
All right,
damn it! I need to get a small con now.
Overseas listeners, we need an overseas ninja. We will pay for shipping. We will pay for the model.
We'll give you saucy pictures of Kevin.
Yes. Yeah, I will give you some of my last episode French-made outfit, role play that we were doing. Please reach out to us because there's several of the Advanced Maneuvers crews who are salivating at the chance of this new Hordes faction.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing.
I think I've already got my ninja lined up, which I can help with that. But
that's pretty. That's true. I'm gonna actively be looking for a ninja to come lock and load next year because the baby will be here and I will not be leaving this house for a while. And I want that faction so bad. I don't even care what it is. I just want it.
I'll snag it for you, Tony. I'll be there.
You gonna go next year? I didn't know that.
There is I've already spoken to Misty and everything, and we've set down that there's a few things she likes to do throughout the year, and one of the things that I am going to continue to do every year is make sure that I go to Lock and Load in Seattle. So I will be there, and I will be willing to pick that up for you.
Oh my God, you're the best. I'm so excited for that faction.
So back to Scorn. I just thought you guys would get a good piece of that information about SmogCon because, as I said, Dallas and a bunch of people are going up there, but they are going to, just like when they announced the new Gargantuans at SmogCon, they're going to announce the name of the new faction, show off stuff from the new faction, talk about rules, a little bit of the rules for it, and then release the first model for them.
That is cool. All right, so I know we want to talk a lot more, but we are going to cut the podcast short. So does anyone have any last words?
We have an upcoming podcast, don't we, Devin? We're going to need stuff for?
Oh, yeah. So our next podcast, which we will be recording on the 14th, exactly, I guess 5 days from now. So do we want to push that back a week, and we'll just say we'll do that one on the 21st?
Yeah, we'll probably...
We'll do the one you're looking for right now after this one. So we'll do one more and then we'll do this one, the what you're looking for.
So by the 21st, I'm going to be putting a post up on the Advanced Maneuvers page today, and it is going to be asking for, once again, viewer questions. We had a lot that we tried to approach and we got to, and then we've actually had a lot of people ask us stuff since. So since it was such a fan favorite episode, we're going to do another one. So please, if you're listening to this, head over to the Advanced Maneuvers page, find the questionnaire post, and ask us whatever you want. We really do enjoy answering them, and it always gives us fun stuff to talk about.
Or post it in this YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, post it in the YouTube channel. We'll pull it from there too.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of Turn Extension. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Freestyling.